Stay right here. Stay right here.
911, what is the location of your
Hey, I need a sheriff and an ambulance.
What's going on there?
I have no idea, man. Hey, come back. Hey, come back. You gotta stay here, bud. You gotta stay here. I know it hurts, my man. I know it hurts. But hey, I'm getting help over here, okay?
How many kids are injured, sir?
It's one kid. Do you have an ambulance coming?
Yes, we're getting an ambulance on the way.
Okay, good deal. I know, man. I know it hurts, bro. I know, man. You gotta stay here. I know.
On the evening of October 22nd, 2024, a 43-year-old Marcus Washington was out enjoying a guy's night with his friends. His new wife, 31-year-old Denise Collins, was at home with his two children, 14-year-old Alyssa and 12-year-old Jalen. What happened next would shatter a family and leave a community questioning how someone could commit such a heinous act against innocent stepchildren. At 9:47 p.m., a frantic 911 call came in from a neighbor who witnessed 12-year-old Jalen running from his house in distress.
Hey, come back. You gotta stay here, bud. You gotta stay here. I know it hurts, my man. I know it hurts. But hey, I'm getting help over here, okay?
How many kids are injured, sir?
It's one kid. Do you have an ambulance coming?
Yes, we're getting an ambulance on the way.
Okay, good deal. I know, man. I know it hurts, bro. I know, man. You gotta stay here. I know.
The neighbor immediately called for an ambulance while comforting the traumatized boy. The dispatcher sent paramedics to help Jalen, but when they arrived at the house to check on the situation, they discovered a horrific scene inside. 14-year-old Alyssa Washington had been brutally stabbed multiple times by the woman who had just become her stepmother 1 week earlier. This is the heartbreaking story of Alyssa Washington. A reminder to be careful with who we marry to bring closer to our kids. This story and tomorrow's are only meant to help you recognize dangerous warning signs and protect yourself and your family. Subscribe to be part of our safety awareness mission. For you to understand this story, let's take you through the background of the people involved, starting with the father of the deceased innocent girl. 43-year-old Marcus Jerome Washington was born on August 15, 1981, in Charlotte, North Carolina, to his loving parents, Robert and Angela Washington. Growing up in the historic Cherry neighborhood, Marcus was the second of 4 children, with an older sister, Keisha, and younger twin brothers, Jerome and Damon. The Washington family lived in a modest brick home where Sunday barbecues were a tradition and hard work was always emphasized as the key to success. From an early age, Marcus displayed a strong sense of responsibility and determination that would define his character throughout his life. While other children his age were focused on video games and sports, Marcus was often found helping his father with home improvement projects, showing a natural mechanical aptitude that made his parents proud. His father, Robert, worked as a supervisor at a Ford manufacturing plant, while his mother, Angela, was employed as a medical technician at Carolina's Medical Center. Marcus's childhood was filled with the sounds of gospel music from New Hope Baptist Church, where the family attended services every Sunday. He participated in the church's youth ministry and community service projects, developing a strong sense of faith and responsibility that would sustain him through life's challenges. Even as a young boy, Marcus possessed a quiet strength and dependable nature that made adults trust him with important responsibilities. Academically, Marcus attended North Mecklenburg High School, where he was known for his strong work ethic and mechanical skills. He maintained good grades while working part-time at a local auto repair shop to save money for his future. His teachers often noted his reliability and leadership abilities, qualities that made him a natural choice for team captain on the school's automotive technology team. During his senior year, Marcus earned several certifications in automotive repair and was accepted into the community college's diesel mechanics program. After graduating from high school in 1999, Marcus enrolled in Central Piedmont Community College, where he pursued an associate degree in diesel mechanics while working full-time at a trucking company. His dedication to his studies and work ethic earned him recognition from his instructors, and he quickly became known as someone who could be relied upon to complete any task with precision and care. In 2008, when Marcus was 27, his life changed dramatically when he met Tamika Johnson at a community festival. Tamika was a 25-year-old nurse who worked in the pediatric unit at Carolina's Medical Center. Their relationship developed quickly, built on shared values of family, faith, and hard work. After dating for 2 years, they married in a beautiful ceremony at New Hope Baptist Church in 2010. Alyssa Marie Washington was born on February 14, 2012. On Valentine's Day, which Marcus always said was a sign that his daughter was destined to be loved. 2 years later, in 2014, their son Jalen Marcus Washington was born, completing their happy family. Marcus embraced fatherhood with the same dedication he brought to everything else in his life, working extra hours to provide for his growing family while always making time for bedtime stories and weekend adventures. Tragically, when Alyssa was 8 and Jalen was 6, Tamika was killed in a car accident while driving home from her job at the hospital. The drunk driver who hit her car walked away with minor injuries, while Tamika died instantly, leaving Marcus to raise their 2 children alone. The loss devastated the entire family, but Marcus's focus immediately shifted to ensuring that his children would have the best possible life despite the tragedy. The transition to single fatherhood was overwhelming, but Marcus was determined to be both mother and father to his children. He relied heavily on his parents for support with childcare, especially during the first year after Tamika's death, when grief and the practical challenges of single parenthood seemed insurmountable. His sister Keisha also stepped in to help, often taking the children for weekends and providing the female influence that Marcus worried they were missing. Alyssa and Jalen grew up to be bright, energetic children who inherited their father's determination and their late mother's compassionate nature. Alyssa excelled in school, particularly in mathematics and science, and dreamed of becoming a biomedical engineer so she could help create medical devices that would save lives like her mother had tried to do. Jalen was more interested in sports and mechanics, often spending hours in the garage with his father learning about engines and car repair. The relationship between Marcus and his children was exceptionally close, built on open communication, mutual respect, and shared activities. Weekend mornings were reserved for pancake breakfasts and cartoons, while evenings often involved homework help at the kitchen table, with all 3 of them working on different projects. The children were Marcus's constant companions and biggest supporters, and he made sure they knew how much he loved and valued them every single day. By 2020, Marcus had established himself as a senior diesel mechanic and shop supervisor at a major trucking company. The job provided excellent pay and benefits, allowing them to move into a nicer house in the University City area with a large garage where Marcus could work on side projects and teach the children about automotive repair. Marcus was proud of how far they had come together as a family unit, from devastated widower with 2 grieving children to a stable, independent household. Marcus's approach to dating was extremely cautious and selective. The loss of Tamika had taught him how precious and fragile happiness could be, and he was determined never to bring anyone into his children's lives who might hurt them or disrupt the stability they had built together. He dated occasionally over the years, but was always careful to keep his romantic life completely separate from his role as a father until he was absolutely certain about someone's character and intentions. Throughout the children's lives, Marcus maintained a strict rule about not introducing women to Alyssa and Jalen unless the relationship was serious and had potential for long-term commitment. He had seen too many single parents bring various partners in and out of their children's lives, creating instability and confusion. Marcus was determined that any woman who entered their lives would be someone who genuinely cared about all of them and understood the special bond they shared as a family. By 2024, Alyssa was 14 and in her freshman year at Northwest School of the Arts, while Jalen was 12 and in 7th grade at the same school. Both children were thriving academically and socially, having inherited their father's work ethic and their mother's caring nature. Alyssa was involved in the robotics club and had won several awards for her projects, while Jalen played on the school basketball team and helped his father with weekend automotive projects. The 3 of them had developed their own traditions and routines over the years. Friday nights were always reserved for movie marathons and takeout, Saturdays were for errands and activities, and Sundays were for church, followed by dinner at Marcus's parents' house. Their life had a comfortable rhythm that all of them cherished, and both children often told their friends that their dad was their best friend who they could talk to about anything. In July 2024, Marcus's life took an unexpected turn when he met Denise Collins at a community fundraiser organized by his church. Denise, 31, was new to Charlotte, having recently moved from Richmond, Virginia, for a job opportunity as a customer service manager at a telecommunications company. She was attractive, well-dressed, and had a confident demeanor that immediately caught Marcus's attention. Denise presented herself as a divorced woman with no children who had relocated to Charlotte for a fresh start in her career. She spoke eloquently about her desire to find someone special to share her life with and her appreciation for family values. She was attentive and complimentary, telling Marcus that she was impressed by his dedication as a single father and that she admired men who put their children first. What initially attracted Marcus to Denise was her apparent maturity and understanding of his priorities as a father. At 31, she seemed more serious about commitment than younger women he had occasionally dated, and she expressed genuine interest in getting to know his children. Denise was also very complimentary about Marcus's success as a single father, telling him that she respected his devotion to Alyssa and Jalen and wanted to be part of their family. Their courtship moved quickly, perhaps more quickly than Marcus's usual cautious approach would have dictated. Denise was persistent in her pursuit, calling him every day, sending thoughtful gifts to his workplace, and constantly expressing her admiration for his character and values. She seemed genuinely interested in getting to know both Marcus and his children, asking detailed questions about their lives, interests, and daily routines. However, there were subtle warning signs that Marcus either didn't notice or chose to overlook in the excitement of the new relationship. Denise was often vague about her past, particularly her previous marriage and the reasons for her divorce. When Marcus asked about her ex-husband, she explained that he had been emotionally distant and unsupportive, but she was reluctant to provide specific details about their relationship or why they had never had children together. Another red flag was Denise's tendency to become possessive when Marcus spent time with his family or devoted attention to his children. She would make subtle comments about how much time he spent with Alyssa and Jalen, suggesting that the children were too dependent on him and that he might be hindering their social development by being so involved in their lives. These comments troubled Marcus, but Denise was always quick to apologize and explain that she was just eager to build their relationship. When Marcus finally introduced Denise to his children in August 2024, the meeting did not go as smoothly as he had hoped. Both Alyssa and Jalen were polite but distant, later telling their father that something about Denise made them uncomfortable. They couldn't articulate exactly what bothered them, but they felt that her interest in their family felt forced and that she was trying too hard to insert herself into their established routines. Alyssa's concerns about Denise became more specific over time. She noticed that Denise had a tendency to interrupt conversations between the siblings and their father, often redirecting his attention to herself when he was helping them with homework or projects. Denise would suggest activities that excluded the children or make remarks about how teenagers and preteens needed to learn independence from their parents. Both children felt that Denise was trying to come between them and their father, but when they expressed these concerns, Marcus dismissed them as natural resistance to change. Jalen, though younger, was equally uncomfortable with Denise's presence in their lives. He noticed that she would often criticize their behavior or make suggestions about how they should act, positioning herself as an authority figure despite barely knowing them. When the children were playing or laughing together, Denise would often make comments about them being too loud or disruptive, creating tension in what had always been a joyful household. Despite his children's reservations, Marcus found himself increasingly drawn to Denise's attention and affection. After years of focusing solely on work and fatherhood, it felt wonderful to have someone who wanted to take care of him and make him feel appreciated. Denise talked about their future together, expressing her desire to be a mother figure to his children and to help him achieve his dreams of opening his own automotive repair shop. Denise was particularly insistent about wanting to develop a maternal relationship with both children, often commenting on how they needed a woman's guidance and influence in their lives. She would make suggestions about their appearance, their choice of friends, and their extracurricular activities, positioning herself as someone who could provide the feminine perspective that had been missing since Tamika's death. By September 2024, just 2 months after they had met, Denise proposed to Marcus during a romantic weekend getaway to the mountains. She had planned an elaborate picnic overlooking the Blue Ridge Mountains and presented him with a custom-engraved watch while expressing her love and commitment. Marcus was surprised but moved by the gesture and agreed to marry her, despite a nagging feeling that perhaps they were moving too quickly. When Marcus announced his engagement to his family, the reaction was mixed. His parents expressed concerns about the short timeline of the relationship and their limited opportunity to really get to know Denise. His sister Keisha was particularly skeptical, noting that Denise seemed to have all the right answers but never provided specific details about her past or her previous relationships. Both Alyssa and Jalen's reactions to the engagement were openly negative. They begged their father to reconsider, expressing their deep discomfort with Denise and their fear that their close family relationship would be damaged by her presence in their home. They pointed out specific instances where Denise had made them feel unwelcome or uncomfortable, including times when she had criticized their behavior or made comments about them being too attached to their father. However, Marcus was determined to move forward with the wedding plans. He interpreted his children's resistance as normal adjustment difficulties and believed that with time, they would come to appreciate having a mother figure in their lives. Denise was supportive of this perspective, often telling Marcus that Alyssa and Jalen just needed firm guidance and that establishing clear boundaries would help them accept the new family dynamic. The wedding planning process was rushed, with Marcus and Denise deciding to have a small ceremony just 6 weeks after their engagement. They cited practical reasons for the quick timeline, including the benefits of combining households and Denise's eagerness to start their new life together as a family. However, the rushed nature of the planning meant that many important conversations about expectations, boundaries, and family dynamics were never fully addressed. During the weeks leading up to the wedding, the tension in Marcus's household became increasingly apparent. Both children became more withdrawn and began spending more time at their grandparents' house. Telling them that they didn't feel comfortable at home with Denise there so often, they confided in their grandmother, Angela, about specific incidents that made them uneasy, including times when Denise had been alone with them and made comments about their relationship with their father that felt inappropriate and jealous. Angela Washington tried to discuss these concerns with her son, but Marcus was defensive and accused his family of being unwelcoming to Denise because they were overly protective of his relationship with his children. The conflict created strain in the family relationships, with Marcus feeling torn between his new relationship and his family's concerns. Denise was supportive during these conflicts, positioning herself as Marcus's ally against what she characterized as his family's interference in their relationship. October 15, 2024 arrived with beautiful fall weather, perfect for the small outdoor ceremony at a local park pavilion. The wedding was attended by about 30 people, mostly Marcus's family and friends, as Denise claimed that her family from Virginia couldn't make the trip on short notice due to work commitments. Marcus looked handsome in a charcoal gray suit, while Denise wore an elegant burgundy dress. Alyssa and Jalen participated in the ceremony as their father's wedding party, despite their reservations about the marriage. They put on brave faces for their father's sake, but those who knew them well could see the sadness and worry in their eyes. During the ceremony, both children stood beside their father with forced smiles, trying to be supportive while internally struggling with their fears about what this marriage would mean for their family. The wedding reception was held at a nearby community center, with soul food catering and a DJ playing a mix of R&B and gospel music. Denise gave a speech about how grateful she was to find love again and how excited she was to be a mother to Alyssa and Jalen. But her words felt rehearsed and hollow to those who knew the family well. Both children barely spoke during the reception, staying close to their grandparents and looking uncomfortable whenever Denise tried to interact with them. After the wedding, Denise moved into Marcus and his children's house, officially creating their blended family. However, the adjustment period was more difficult than Marcus had anticipated. Denise immediately began asserting her authority as the woman of the house, establishing rules and expectations that felt foreign and restrictive to all 3 family members. One of the most significant changes was Denise's insistence on being treated as Alyssa and Jalen's mother rather than just their father's wife. She argued that the children needed maternal guidance and that they should show her the respect and obedience that children owe their mother. This created immediate conflict, as both children resented being mothered by someone they barely knew and didn't trust. Denise's approach to step-parenting was possessive and controlling, often seeming motivated more by a desire to establish dominance than genuine care for the children's well-being. She would criticize them for minor things like leaving their backpacks by the door or talking too loudly on the phone with friends. When either child pushed back or questioned her authority, Denise would become angry and demand that Marcus support her decisions, creating a difficult position for him as he tried to balance his new marriage with his relationship with his children. The living situation became increasingly tense as Denise began to systematically undermine the close relationships within the family. She would suggest that Marcus spend less time helping the children with their homework and projects because they needed to learn independence, or she would plan activities for her and Marcus that specifically excluded Alyssa and Jalen. When the children complained about feeling left out, Denise would tell Marcus that they were being manipulative and trying to undermine their marriage. Both children's grades began to suffer as the stress at home affected their ability to concentrate at school. Their teachers noticed that they seemed distracted and unhappy, a stark contrast to the bright, engaged students they had been in previous years. When school counselors reached out to discuss their concerns, both Alyssa and Jalen were reluctant to share details about their home life. But they did mention that adjusting to their father's new marriage was more difficult than they had expected. Friends and family members also noticed changes in Marcus and his children during the week following the wedding. Marcus seemed stressed and defensive when anyone asked how the adjustment was going, while both Alyssa and Jalen appeared withdrawn and anxious. The close, happy relationships that had defined their family seemed strained and uncomfortable under Denise's watchful and jealous supervision. On Saturday, October 22, 2024, exactly 1 week after the wedding, Marcus's friends Jerome and Damon invited him out for a guys' night to celebrate his new marriage. They had planned an evening of dinner and watching the game at a local sports bar, hoping to give Marcus a chance to relax and have fun after the stress of the wedding and adjustment period. Initially, Marcus was hesitant to leave his children alone with Denise, not because he suspected his wife might harm them, but because he knew their relationship was still rocky and he didn't want any conflicts while he was away. However, Denise encouraged him to go out with his friends, insisting that she and the children needed time to bond without Marcus there to mediate their interactions. Denise presented this as an opportunity for her to establish a better relationship with her new stepchildren, suggesting that Alyssa and Jalen might be more open to accepting her as a mother figure without Marcus present to interfere. She promised Marcus that she would be patient and understanding, and that they would use the evening to have important conversations about their new family dynamic and how they could better get along. Reluctantly, Marcus agreed to go out with his friends, but not before having a conversation with his children about being respectful and giving Denise a chance to be the mother she wanted to be. He reminded them that Denise was now part of their family and that it was important for them to find a way to build a loving relationship. Both children agreed to try, though they later confided to their friends that they were nervous about being alone with their stepmother. Marcus left the house around 6 p.m., looking forward to a rare evening of adult conversation and relaxation. He had been feeling overwhelmed by the changes in his life and was grateful for the opportunity to spend time with his friends and get their perspectives on his new marriage. His last image of home was Alyssa and Jalen doing homework at the dining room table while Denise prepared dinner in the kitchen. What happened over the next few hours would forever change the lives of everyone involved. According to the investigation that followed, the evening started peacefully enough, with Denise and the children maintaining a cautious distance from each other. Alyssa and Jalen worked on their homework while Denise busied herself with household tasks, and they had minimal interaction for the first couple of hours. However, the situation began to deteriorate around 8 p.m. when Denise apparently decided to use Marcus's absence as an opportunity to establish her authority and demand the respect she felt she deserved as the children's new stepmother. Neighbors later reported hearing raised voices from the house, with what sounded like an adult woman becoming increasingly angry and children trying to defend themselves. The conflict escalated when Denise began insisting that both Alyssa and Jalen call her mom instead of using her first name. She argued that as Marcus's wife, she was now their mother and deserved to be addressed as such. When both children refused and explained that they already had a mother who had died, Denise became enraged, viewing this as disrespect and defiance that needed to be corrected immediately. The situation reached a breaking point when Alyssa, trying to find a compromise, hesitantly suggested that maybe they could call Denise mom, but only when their father was around to make him happy. Instead of appreciating this gesture, Denise interpreted it as manipulation and became convinced that both children were plotting to undermine her authority and turn Marcus against her. At approximately 9:30 p.m., the verbal conflict turned physical when Denise began grabbing both children and demanding that they show her proper respect. What started as grabbing and shaking quickly escalated as Denise's rage intensified. Both Alyssa and Jalen fought back, trying to get away from their stepmother and screaming for help. The struggle moved through the house, with furniture being knocked over and both children desperately trying to escape Denise's increasingly violent assault. However, Denise found it difficult to control both children at the same time. While she was focused on attacking one child, the other would try to help or attempt to escape. In the chaos of the violent struggle, 12-year-old Jalen managed to break free and run out of the house, escaping to the neighborhood compound area where he was spotted by a concerned neighbor. 14-year-old Alyssa was not as fortunate. Unable to escape like her younger brother, she became trapped inside the house with an increasingly violent Denise, who continued the brutal attack with a kitchen knife. The assault on Alyssa continued for several more minutes, with the girl fighting desperately for her life while calling out for help that would not come in time. At 9:47 p.m., 35-year-old neighbor Michael Thompson was taking out his trash when he spotted Jalen running through the compound area, crying and clearly distressed. Michael immediately approached the boy, who was sobbing and kept saying that his stepmother was hurting his sister inside the house. While comforting Jalen and trying to calm him down, Michael called 911 to request an ambulance.
Stay right here, stay right here.
911, what is the location?
Hey, I need a sheriff and an ambulance.
What's going on there?
I have no idea, man. Hey, come back. You gotta stay here, bud. You gotta stay here. I know it hurts, my man. I know it hurts. But hey, I'm getting help over here, okay?
How many kids are injured, sir?
It's one kid. Do you have an ambulance coming?
Yes, we're getting an ambulance on the way.
Okay, good deal. I know, man. I know it hurts, bro. I know, man. You gotta stay here. I know.
Michael stayed with Jalen in his front yard, trying to provide comfort and reassurance to the traumatized boy while waiting for emergency responders to arrive. But what Michael did not know that there was Jalen's sister was still trapped in the house. Paramedics and police arrived within minutes and immediately began assessing Jalen's condition while getting information about what had happened inside the house. The boy had some minor injuries from the initial struggle. While paramedics attended to Jalen, police officers entered the house to check on the situation and look for Alyssa. Inside the house, officers discovered a horrific scene. 14-year-old Alyssa Washington was lying on the living room floor in a pool of blood, having suffered multiple stab wounds to her chest, abdomen, and back. The kitchen knife used in the attack was found nearby, covered in blood and bearing Denise's fingerprints. Alyssa was already dead, having succumbed to her injuries during the prolonged attack. Denise was found in the master bathroom, attempting to clean blood from her hands and clothes. When officers approached her, she initially claimed that she had found both children injured and was trying to help them, but the evidence at the scene immediately contradicted her story. Blood spatter analysis, the position of the knife, and Alyssa's defensive wounds all pointed to a deliberate and sustained attack. During her arrest, Denise showed no remorse or emotion about Alyssa's death or Jalen's trauma. When informed that Alyssa had died from her injuries, her only response was to ask about calling a lawyer. Her cold, calculated demeanor in the aftermath of such a horrific crime shocked the responding officers, who later testified that they had never encountered such callousness from someone who had just killed a child. The news of Alyssa's death reached Marcus while he was at the sports bar with his friends. Detective Maria Rodriguez made the devastating phone call asking Marcus to return home immediately because there had been an incident involving his children. Marcus's friends drove him home in panic, none of them prepared for the horror they would encounter. When Marcus arrived at his house, he found it swarming with police cars, ambulances, and crime scene investigators. The sight of the yellow tape around his home and the grim expressions on the officers' faces told him that something terrible had happened. Jalen was sitting in the back of an ambulance, wrapped in a blanket and being comforted by a paramedic, which gave Marcus a moment of relief before the full horror was revealed. When Detective Rodriguez gently delivered the news that Alyssa had been killed and that Denise had been arrested for her murder, Marcus collapsed in disbelief and grief. The thought that his daughter was dead and his son had witnessed the attack was almost too much to comprehend. Jalen ran to his father's arms, and together they began the long process of trying to understand how their lives had been so completely destroyed. The investigation into Alyssa's murder revealed the depth of Denise's deception and the warning signs that had been missed or ignored. Background checks that should have been conducted before the wedding revealed that Denise had a history of domestic violence and had been arrested twice in Virginia for assault charges that were later dropped when victims refused to testify. Further investigation revealed that Denise's claims about her past were largely fabricated. She had been married twice previously, not once as she had claimed, and both marriages had ended due to her controlling and violent behavior toward her partners and their children when they had them. The job she claimed to have in Charlotte was also misrepresented. She was actually employed as a temporary worker with no permanent position or benefits. Most disturbing was the discovery that this was not Denise's first time targeting single fathers with children. Police in Richmond had investigated her in connection with suspicious injuries to another man's children the year before, but insufficient evidence had prevented charges from being filed. The pattern of behavior suggested that Denise specifically sought out vulnerable single parents whom she could manipulate and control. The autopsy results were heartbreaking for Marcus and his family to hear. Alyssa had suffered 9 stab wounds, indicating a prolonged and brutal attack. The medical examiner determined that she had fought desperately for her life, as evidenced by defensive wounds on her hands and arms. The final wound to her heart had been the fatal one, but she had lived for several minutes after the attack, conscious and aware of what was happening to her. During police interrogation, Denise's story changed multiple times as evidence contradicted her claims. She initially maintained her innocence, then claimed self-defense when both children allegedly attacked her. However, the forensic evidence clearly showed that both Alyssa and Jalen had been the victims of an unprovoked assault, with no indication that either child had ever possessed the weapon used to kill Alyssa. Eventually, under pressure from overwhelming evidence, Denise admitted to attacking both children but claimed it was not premeditated. She told investigators that Alyssa and Jalen had been disrespectful and defiant when she tried to establish her authority as their mother, and that she had lost control when they refused to show her proper respect. Her complete lack of remorse and her focus on justifying her actions rather than expressing grief for Alyssa's death horrified everyone involved in the case. The trial of Denise Collins began 6 months later, in April 2025, with the entire Charlotte community following the proceedings closely. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Amanda Foster, presented a clear case of premeditated murder, arguing that Denise had deliberately targeted Marcus and his children as part of a pattern of predatory behavior towards single parents and their families. The evidence presented at trial painted a disturbing picture of Denise's true character and her calculated approach to insinuating herself into Marcus's family. Text messages recovered from her phone showed that she had been researching Marcus's background and financial situation before they even met, suggesting that their encounter at the church fundraiser was not the chance meeting she had claimed. More damaging evidence came from testimony by her previous partners in Virginia, who were finally willing to come forward about their experiences with Denise's controlling and violent behavior toward their children. 2 men testified about how Denise had used similar tactics to manipulate them, including love bombing during the early stages of relationships, followed by increasingly possessive and jealous behavior toward their relationships with their children. The prosecution also presented evidence that Denise had been planning to harm both children for some time before the murder. Internet searches on her phone revealed that she had been researching methods of asserting parental authority and had visited websites that promoted extreme disciplinary measures for difficult stepchildren. More disturbing were searches related to dealing with resistant stepchildren and establishing dominance in blended families. Marcus's testimony was the most difficult part of the trial for everyone involved. He spoke through tears about his daughter's brilliant mind, her dreams of becoming a biomedical engineer, and the close relationship she had shared with her brother and father. He also courageously acknowledged the warning signs he had missed or ignored, hoping that his story might help other single parents avoid similar tragedies. Jalen also testified with the support of a child psychologist and his father. Despite his young age and the trauma he had experienced, he was able to provide crucial details about the attack and Denise's behavior leading up to that night. His testimony about watching his sister being hurt while he escaped to get help was heartbreaking for everyone in the courtroom. The defense attempted to argue that Denise had acted in a moment of passion rather than with premeditation, claiming that both children's alleged defiance had triggered an uncontrollable rage. However, the prosecution successfully demonstrated that the sustained nature of the attack on Alyssa, with 9 separate stab wounds, indicated deliberate intent to kill rather than a momentary loss of control. Expert testimony from forensic psychologists revealed that Denise exhibited characteristics of narcissistic personality disorder and showed no genuine remorse for her actions. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a specialist in criminal psychology, testified that Denise's behavior pattern suggested she was a predator who specifically targeted single parents with the intent to eliminate their children and establish complete control over her partners. On June 20, 2025, after deliberating for just 4 hours, the jury found Denise Collins guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Alyssa Washington and attempted murder in the assault on Jalen Washington. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder charge, plus an additional 25 years for the attempted murder, noting that the crimes against children in their own home represented some of the most heinous acts he had encountered in his judicial career. In his sentencing statement, Judge William Thompson addressed Denise directly, stating that she had betrayed the most sacred trust that exists in society, the trust to protect and nurture the children placed in her care. He noted that her actions had destroyed a family and traumatized a community, and that she would spend the rest of her life in prison where she belonged. The The sentencing brought some measure of closure for Marcus and his family, but the grief and trauma of losing Alyssa continues to affect everyone who loved her. Marcus has struggled with guilt and depression, blaming himself for not recognizing the danger Denise posed to his children. He has undergone extensive therapy and counseling, working to process his grief while also helping Jalen deal with the trauma of witnessing his sister's murder. Jalen has also required extensive psychological support to help him process what he experienced that night. He struggles with survivor's guilt, wondering if he could have done something to save his sister, and has had difficulty sleeping and concentrating at school. However, with the support of his father, grandparents, and professional counselors, he is slowly beginning to heal from the trauma. Alyssa's funeral was held at New Hope Baptist Church, the same church where Marcus had grown up and where the family had worshipped for years. Hundreds of people attended to pay their respects to a young girl whose life had been cut tragically short. Her robotics teacher spoke about Alyssa's curiosity and intelligence, while her best friends shared memories of her kindness and humor. Pastor David Williams delivered a powerful eulogy that celebrated Alyssa's life while acknowledging the senseless nature of her death. He spoke about her dreams of becoming a biomedical engineer, her love for her family, and her bright future that had been stolen by an act of evil. He emphasized that while their hearts were broken by her loss, Alyssa's memory would continue to inspire others to pursue their dreams and cherish their families. The community response to Alyssa's murder was immediate and overwhelming. Local organizations established a scholarship fund in her name to support young women interested in pursuing careers in biomedical engineering or robotics. The fund has already helped 3 students begin their college education, carrying on Alyssa's dream of using technology to help save lives. Marcus has channeled his grief into advocacy work, speaking at domestic violence awareness events and workshops for single parents about recognizing warning signs in relationships. He shares his story not to blame himself further, but to help other parents avoid the mistakes he made and to honor Alyssa's memory by potentially saving other children from similar fates. Marcus emphasizes to audiences that children's safety and comfort should always come first, even if it means being alone longer than they would like. He stresses the importance of trusting parental instincts and, more importantly, trusting children's instincts when they express concerns about new partners. He reminds other single parents that both Alyssa and Jalen had tried to tell him that something was wrong with Denise, and his failure to listen cost one child her life and traumatized the other. The case has had a lasting impact on the Charlotte community, leading to increased awareness about domestic violence and the particular vulnerabilities faced by single parents and their children. Local domestic violence organizations have reported an increase in calls from people seeking advice about new relationships and asking for resources to conduct background checks on potential partners. The Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department has also implemented new protocols for investigating domestic violence cases involving step-parents and blended families, recognizing that children in these situations may face unique risks. Detective Rodriguez, who led the investigation into Alyssa's murder, has become a trainer for other officers on recognizing signs of family violence and properly investigating crimes against children. Marcus has also become an advocate for mandatory waiting periods and background checks before remarriages involving children, working with local legislators to propose laws that would require cooling-off periods and counseling for blended families. While these efforts face challenges, Marcus believes that if even one family is saved from experiencing what his family went through, the advocacy work will be worthwhile. Jalen has slowly begun to find his voice in honoring his sister's memory. With his father's support, he has started speaking to other children who have experienced trauma, sharing his story and emphasizing the importance of speaking up when adults make them feel unsafe. Despite his young age, Jalen has shown remarkable resilience and a determination to help others that reflects both his parents' values and his sister's caring nature. The relationship between Marcus and Jalen has grown even stronger in the aftermath of the tragedy, built on their shared grief and their commitment to honoring Alyssa's memory. They continue their tradition of working on projects together, now dedicating time each week to building or repairing items that they donate to local charities in Alyssa's name. These projects have become a way for them to process their grief while doing something positive for their community. Marcus has also established an annual robotics competition at Alyssa's school, providing scholarship money for students who demonstrate both technical skill and a commitment to using their abilities to help others. The competition has become a popular event that draws participants from across the region and serves as a living memorial to Alyssa's dreams and aspirations. The extended Washington family has rallied around Marcus and Jalen, providing ongoing support and ensuring that both father and son know they are not alone in their grief. Marcus's parents have become even more involved in Jalen's life, helping with daily care and providing stability during the difficult months following the trial. His sister Keisha has also stepped up, often taking Jalen for weekends and providing emotional support to both her brother and nephew. Alyssa's story serves as a tragic reminder of how quickly domestic situations can turn deadly when warning signs are ignored. Her murder highlights the importance of thorough background checks, taking time to truly know someone before marriage, and always prioritizing children's safety and comfort over adult desires for companionship and family completion. The speed with which Marcus and Denise's relationship progressed, from meeting to marriage in just 3 months, eliminated opportunities for red flags to become apparent and for the children's concerns to be properly addressed. Their story demonstrates why relationship experts recommend extended courtship periods, especially when children are involved, and why blended family counseling should be considered essential rather than optional. The tragic case also highlights the particular vulnerabilities faced by children in blended families, especially when step-parents have unrealistic expectations about instant family bonding and parental authority. Denise's insistence on being called mom immediately rather than allowing relationships to develop naturally over time created unnecessary conflict that escalated to deadly violence. For those who knew and loved Alyssa Washington, her legacy lives on in the memories of her bright smile, her scientific curiosity, her loving relationship with her brother, and her dreams of using technology to help save lives. She was more than a victim of a senseless crime. She was a daughter, a sister, a student, a friend, and a young woman whose potential was unlimited until it was stolen by someone who should have protected her. The story of Alyssa Washington reminds us that behind every headline about domestic violence or child murder is a real person with dreams, friendships, talents, and people who loved them deeply. Her death was preventable, and her story serves as a call to action for better protection of children in blended families and more thorough screening of potential step-parents. Marcus often reflects on how different things might have been if he had listened to his children's concerns, if he had taken more time to get to know Denise, or if he had required family counseling before moving forward with the marriage. While he cannot change the past, he is determined to use his experience to help other families avoid similar tragedies. Jalen continues to struggle with nightmares and anxiety, but he has made remarkable progress in his healing journey. He has returned to school and is slowly rebuilding relationships with friends, though he remains more cautious and protective than he was before the tragedy. His counselors are amazed by his resilience and his ability to find ways to honor his sister's memory while still allowing himself to be a child. The house where the tragedy occurred has been sold, and Marcus and Jalen have moved to a smaller home closer to his parents. The new house represents a fresh start for both of them, though they have made sure to create a special space dedicated to Alyssa's memory, filled with her awards, photos, and the robotics projects she was working on before her death. As Marcus and Jalen continue their healing journey, they are supported by a community that has been forever changed by Alyssa's story. Her death has sparked important conversations about relationship safety, children's rights in blended families, and the importance of listening to children's voices when they express concerns about adult behavior. The scholarship fund established in Alyssa's name continues to grow, now supporting young women across the region who share her passion for science and technology. Recipients of the scholarship are encouraged to use their education not just for personal success, but to find ways to help others and make their communities better, reflecting the values that Alyssa had begun to develop in her short life. Alyssa Washington's story is ultimately one of a bright light that was extinguished far too soon, but whose memory continues to shine through the lives she touched and the changes her tragedy has inspired. Her death serves as a stark reminder that the safety and well-being of children must always be the top priority when adults make decisions about relationships and family structures. As we remember Alyssa Washington, we honor not just her memory, but her dreams of using science to help others, her love for her family, and her potential to make the world a better place. Her legacy challenges us all to be more vigilant in protecting children, more careful in our relationship choices, and more committed to listening when children try to tell us they feel unsafe. This is so tragic and sad. Let me know what you think in the comments section below, and remember to subscribe for more awareness stories like this. Talk to you in another story tomorrow.